This will be my first of 2 instructional painting videos made based off of the techniques that I used in this painting of the prophet Elijah being fed by ravens. It is a mixed media painting, and today I'm going to teach you how to make watercolor splatters. Welcome to Celebration State, where we help Christian creatives to grow in their creativity and in their love for God. When you are trying to create that perfect splatter effect on your painting, there are these steps that you should go through to create it successfully. The first step is the preparation. That's where you're protecting everything that you don't want to get paint on. The next step is achieving the right consistency of paint. You want to have the right water to paint ratio because we're using watercolor here. The next step is the application, and I'm going to take you through several different methods of applying splatter, and you can choose your own or you could invent your own after this. I just went through all of these steps really quickly, but let's slow them down so that you can create the effect that you're wanting with confidence. So here for the preparation phase, I didn't actually need to cover anything because I'm outside, and this paper, it's only being used for splatter. So I don't have to worry about accidentally splattering onto my painting. But I just want to encourage you guys to cover as much as you can. Sometimes splatter can get onto walls and carpets, and it definitely can get to other parts of your painting if there's more going on with your painting than just a blank page full of splatter. And you can tape stuff down, you can use paper or plastic, but here we're doing the consistency stage where I'm adding water to my paint. And the tricky part is that you need it to be pretty runny. You need to have quite a bit of water, but you don't want it to be so thin that you're not getting any color when you splatter it down. For my first splatter, I'm going to be using this blue color with a paintbrush. And so for the application phase, I want to show you the first type of application I'm going to do. I like to call the fling. And you can see here with the fling, if you have a long stroke, you're going to get this long line that comes out. And it's not a perfect line, it's kind of jagged, but all of your splatter is going to tend to follow that line out from where you are splattering. Now here, if we look at what I like to call the flick, that's when you have paint on your brush and you're just flicking it off with your thumb or with a finger. And this creates a smaller splatter, but notice how it does come out from the paintbrush almost in these radial sort of like sun ray lines, just in little dots. And you need to keep this in mind for when you're creating your effects, where you want to add splatter and where you don't want to continue adding splatter. I like to call this one the jab because I'm not flinging it down. It's almost a stabbing motion or like a pounding motion, but you're obviously not making contact with the paper. Here the movement is more controlled. It's a shorter movement than the fling, which has your hand just sort of coming in this large sweep. The jab is the shorter motion, and so the drops are closer together. And this could create an effect that you might like instead of being so long and spread out. And I think that a combination of multiple techniques just like this is best for creating the effect of what looks like random paint splatter. If you're wanting to have bigger splatters, you need to make sure that you have a lot of paint in your brush. Next, I'll make splatter with a medicine dropper. Now, if you were watching carefully in the beginning, you actually could see me doing this with a metal straw. I don't recommend that, but it totally can work in a pinch. A medicine dropper is so much easier because you don't have to have quite so much of this paint mixture to be able to get some into the medicine dropper. It'll just suck it up into it. Whereas with the straw, you have to have more to get it into the straw and just release it with your thumb. But here you can do these little controlled drops, and you can experiment with how high and how low to drop the paint from. And if you get a lot of paint in the dropper, you can drop a lot at once, which will give you those bigger splatters, which I enjoy. And here I'm trying to create little drops just with what is left on the outside of the dropper. Now I'm going to be using a clean straw and blowing through it to create those lines coming out from a splatter, which can be very dynamic lines. You may want them, you may not. Feel free to leave them or take them. But here you would only blow in the direction that you want them to go in. And just be careful not to blow too hard. Here I'm blowing pretty hard. They're not very subtle, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of the effect that it can make. In the modification step, while paint is still wet, you can go through and wipe up paint. You can go through and darken paint if it's still wet. You want to be careful to not let it dry if it's not looking the way that you want it to look, because it's always going to be easier with watercolor to change something when it's wet. Now I'm just going to add a little bit more of flicking and flinging of the paint to create the exact look that I'm wanting for this fun, sort of messy painting. I hope that this video was helpful for you. Please like and subscribe if you want to come on future creative adventures with us. Let me know down in the comments how you're doing and what artistic projects you're working on right now. Be so blessed.